Ego death constitutes a concept frequently idealized across spiritual traditions as a pathway to liberation through dissolution of individual identity and integration with a transcendent entity such as God or universal consciousness. Narcissistic actors operating within Christianity, New Age movements, and analogous frameworks repurpose this process as a mechanism for coercive identity demolition. They instruct adherents to eliminate the ego, which effectively requires suppression of personal boundaries, silencing of skepticism, and relinquishment of autonomy, thereby creating a psychological void that the abuser occupies. What gets called humility in these contexts often means erasing your own needs and perspectives, while surrender becomes another word for obedience to external authority. Authentic ego death, should such a phenomenon occur, would eliminate illusory constructs and foster psychological resilience. In these contexts, however, the process removes essential protective elements, including anger, recollection of inflicted harm, and the capacity to refuse demands. Christianity designates this procedure as dying to self, whereas New Age terminology describes it as ascension. Both approaches execute systematic amputation of defensive structures under the guise of spiritual elevation, leaving the individual convinced of enlightenment while experiencing systematic depletion devoid of defenses, memory, or self-preservation. The abuser retains full psychological integrity while the target remains an empty receptacle. This outcome represents as a calculated exploitation conducted through ritualized language and symbolic practices. Within hierarchical religious institutions, the invocation of ego death carries narcissistic undertones that serve to perpetuate power asymmetry. Leaders deny the pyramid structure aloud while enforcing it through subtle doctrine that the more you die to self, the higher you rise. Any visible confidence or signal of self-worth is reframed as egoism and a barrier to God. They weaponize humility to lock the congregant below them. Ego death becomes mandatory spiritual amputation, so the head stays tallest. Refusal is punished, and the consequences are being shamed, forced into isolation, or accusations of pride. The unstated rule is that you must stay low, so they remain chosen. Confidence threatens the entire illusion that only they access the light, so they recast it as arrogance.